G'day and welcome to Aussievision. It's Kyriakos here, and today we'll be talking about three of the national finals coming up this weekend and into next week: Ireland, Norway, and the Czech Republic, where we'll be getting three new artists and songs for Eurovision 2023. Anyway, we have lots to talk about. Joining me today to talk about the three national finals are members of the Aussievision team. We have Fleur, Craig, and Hugo. Hi all.
G'day.
So let's get straight into it. We will go in chronological order of when the shows will take place. So firstly, we have Ireland with Eurosong 2023, which will be on the Late Late Show, which will take place Friday night in Europe and Saturday morning in Australia. So guys, who do we think is the favourite to take it out so far?
I feel like, so I'm going to preface this by saying, this is one of those weird national finals where I feel like I would probably not be surprised by literally any of them winning. Like whoever wins, I'm probably going to look at the result and go something like, "Oh yeah, like that figures." I think they're all quite good. There's nothing overly outstanding to me here, but if I was going to take a wild stab at who I think will win, I know people don't like their song, but Wild Youth, I think, has a good shot at getting there. I think there's a sort of built-in authenticity that just comes by having instruments on stage and like a band set up. And I think that sort of will lend them, even if the song is very like Melfest, I think that'll lend them a little bit of authenticity. It'll give them an edge on the others. But like I say, I'm not wedded to that. And I think whoever wins, I'm probably going to be relatively unsurprised because
Flo, who do you think are one of the favourites?
I had Connolly as my favourite. One of the few members that did, because I think in our rankings it may have come third.
No, yes, it did. Yeah, Hugo, who do you think is one of the favourites?
I agree with Craig in the sense that the songs are all pretty like decent without being outstanding. So again, I agree with Craig that I wouldn't be surprised if any of them winning. Dare I say Adji would be my favorite, just because I just think it's the most impactful. It's just the one you remember. The other songs are nice. I think there's a relatively clear top four. So out of those four, I think Adji is the most impactful. In saying that though, and we might touch on it later though, the Late Late Show, it's just the studio stage. So I think it will hurt with the upbeat, up-tempo banger song the most out of those four, because it does require the big crowd shots and the sweeping camera. So there's a chance that it does just fall flat in that late studio TV setup. Connolly, I like the song. It gets a little bit repetitive. It could be one of those ones where it's magic live, and that's what I think it's really relying on. In terms of those other two sort of mid-tempo sort of ones, again, I like them. They're nice songs. Do they scream mid-range of death at Eurovision? Yes. And for a televote only semi-final, I would think Adji would have the best chance of making it, clearly because it's just the most impactful. But Connolly has the chance to have a special moment on stage.
Yeah, I have to say Adji has grown on me since the first listens. And do you have a good point there, Hugo? Like how a banger of a song translates in that kind of studio setting is a bit of a risk, as we saw what happened last year. But I do think Adji's more the typical televote grabber, and obviously that's what you need now in the Eurovision semi-final. And we want to see Ireland qualify to the Eurovision final. That would be great to see again. He actually mentioned that Adji has a secret weapon. So he mentioned that he's going to sing in Irish for around 20 seconds in the song, which got some of the, especially the Irish fandom, pretty excited. So it would be the first time Irish language will be featured in competing songs for like 25 years for Ireland, which is great to see and good inclusion. So maybe that's the thing that gets him over the line. Who knows? The one that we haven't talked about really is Public Image Limited with Hawaii. Does anyone have any thoughts on how that would go?
I do.
Yeah.
So I was actually going to list this one as my dark horse, and I know that's probably not what everyone wants to hear, but I think I don't hate the song as much as everyone else does, but I think the unavoidable thing here is like non-fans have been messaging me about this, like the fact that like Johnny Rotten is trying out for Eurovision, and like I'm getting like people who otherwise do not pay attention to it at all, like messaging me saying, "Oh, look at this! Have you seen this?" And I don't know if that translates to Ireland, but like it wouldn't surprise me if it did. And it wouldn't surprise me if there are people who are just going to vote on the name value there. But like to speak for the song, because I suspect no one else will, I like it's about dementia, and I like the way that it's sort of structured to reflect that. There's lots of these sort of repetitive lyrics, the sense of like, you know, going back to long distant memories that, you know, make you feel good. And it's sort of there's something quite melancholic there, a little bit like latter day Kate Bush, but perhaps not as good. So like I don't hate the song, but I think if he does do better than expected, it's probably a name value factor.
I was just going to say, we saw last year with Finland and the Rasmus being a very big international name in a small national final. Finland only had 7, Ireland only has 6, so even fewer. So if people think, and just given the overall decent, like 60-70% quality of the songs without there being one standout, maybe people will think, I didn't dislike any of them all. I'm just going to vote for the big name. So that might come into play with the public, I would assume, more than the juries.
That's a good point. Fleur.
Fernando's favourite, he would be absolutely, because I mean, I'm still a bit older than everyone, but I remember the Sex Pistols songs, not in the charts, I was young, but I remember them being very popular when I was in high school amongst people my age. The thing is, Ireland are in semi-final one. They haven't got the UK and Australia voting in that semi, so that could play a part. If it does go to Eurovision, does get the final, I could see it do well. I will say that though. But the song itself is not bad. I don't mind it. The late show, that's got a sort of an older demographic watching it, doesn't it? Yeah. So,
yeah, that was my thought. It does skew older from my understanding.
Yeah, so that could play a big part.
Are there any other entries that you guys want to talk about? I think there was just which one's the other one? The K Money and ND with Down in the Rain. Because that was initially my second favorite song, and I did like the rhythm and the rapping, and like you guys all said, I could see it winning too. Like I could see any of these pretty much taking it out. And for me, it's a dark horse. Do you guys have any thoughts?
It was my second favorite too. Like I did say earlier, I don't think the Irish public could go for it, especially if it's an older crowd watching it. They're not going for it. I would love for it to go for the very, very contemporary for Ireland to sing a rap song along. I quite like it, and I'm not so much go for rap. So yeah, it surprised me. That was my second favorite.
I quite like it, but I think I like the fact that genre is appearing more than I like the actual song. And like, I'd be quite happy for something like this to go in the future. I just don't know if this is the particular track that's screaming to me that this one should go to Eurovision, basically.
I agree with Craig. It seems like a bit of a let's throw this in because, and I think the Irish head of delegation has been very clear that they see Eurovision as a pop music contest. So I think the ones that the fans are talking about are generally the pop songs, and then maybe a couple of others, not making up the numbers, but more so purely in for that genre rather than we actually want to send this to Eurovision. Not personally my cup of tea, the rap song, but who knows?
And the last song is Wild by Layla Jones. So for me, I think Flo, we had chats about this. It to me does remind me more of the Leslie Roy kind of route, maybe, like having listened to it again. And personally would like to see Ireland try something different, given it's 100% televote in the Eurovision semis. Does anyone else have any thoughts?
Again, I can see her sort of standing there with a spotlight on her, and that sort of possibly helping her out in a small stage. Like I can see it building some drama if she's really expressive and it's really focused on her. I quite like this song. It reminds me of something that was rumored to go for Ireland a couple of years ago. There was a song called Golden by some sort of queer band, and it was rumored on Twitter, and then they ended up having nothing to do with it. But I listened to that song, and it reminds me a little bit of this one in its production. And so I like it. I'd be happy if it went. I'd probably be happy if any of them went. So who knows?
Yeah, I'd like to see Ireland take a little bit of a risk, and I don't see the song being a risk. I think my youngest son had heard it playing when I was listening to it. He said, reminds me of Bulgaria, Gloria. And I thought,
As a song,
yeah.
as a song, it's quite pleasant. I quite like it. As a Eurovision song, probably not. And it probably is fighting with We Are One for those sort of mid-tempo pop votes. So I don't see it winning. But I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Well, the next national final we have is Melodi Grand Prix in Norway, which will take place on Saturday night in Europe and Sunday morning Australian time. So, Fleur, what do you think? Who is taking out MGP this year?
Oh, I think Alessandra. I think she'll go through. I would prefer her off the favourites with Ulrika, because I like Ulrika's songs, but it's not doing much for me. It's a nicely sung female ballad. I'd like to see Norway do something a bit different. I think Alexandra does have something different. Yoni, again, I think that was my favourite. Love to see that go through. Love it. And the other one I like is Regina. There's a few good songs in that mix that I would prefer.
I think Ulrika is the one to beat. I loved Attention a couple of years ago. I didn't know what could be of similar quality to it, but honestly is amazing. I think it's very Eurovision-y. It's quite cliched. We've heard it all before, but Ulrika brings the X factor to this performance. I think there'll be a lot of good sentiment to her if it gets through to Eurovision, which I hope it does. It's just the best overall package, in my opinion. The banger songs, I feel I really love them in the studio. Live, I'm not 100% convinced by them, Alessandra and Yona. I just feel Ulrika is the best package. She's experienced on stage, will get the jury love, and there'll be public sentiment for her. This is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, Craig, who do you think is taking it out?
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree. I think when we all first heard the songs, people went for Ulrika, and of course there's a degree to which that was us having an inbuilt bias towards, isn't it sad she didn't get to go in 2020? Wouldn't it be great if she got to go now? But I think the song is enjoyable. As Hugo said, it presents well on stage, and I'm not overly worried that it's like quite derivative and like, I think cliche is a bit of a mean word, but it's certainly very derivative. There's lots of like influences going on here, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think a lot of the audience coming in May, as much as the fans like to hear really new out there sounds in Eurovision, I don't know if like the general public coming in May is going to watch the Eurovision Song Contest to have like their minds blown by like cutting edge indie music. And like a lady singing a really well produced ballad in a dress with some cool lighting is probably something that's going to appeal to like quite a lot of people at home. I think if she's going to take advantage of the 2020 thing, this is the time to do it, because when she gets to Liverpool, nobody's going to know who she is. So if she's going to get those sort of, sympathy votes, again, I feel a bit mean saying that, if she's going to get people supporting her for that reason, it's going to be now. And I think this is also the first year in MGP in a couple of years where they've had a jury, which also feels like it's leaning in her favor. So I would say that, like, unless something wild happens, and I don't rule that out because we're living in a timeline where Gustav won for Belgium. So something could happen, but it feels like this is Ulrika's moment. And I'd be really happy to see it.
Well, Fleur, do you have a dark horse out of the selection?
The dark horse. Ooh. Maybe Aqua.
Okay.
That's the no Yoni as well. Yeah, the male Scandi ballad. That is always going to be a chance. One thing that we were talking about, Ulrika, lots in the fandom know who she is. we know that she missed out on her chance in 2020. Eurovision, the average Eurovision viewer just going to tune in for Eurovision aren't going to know that. And they're going to know that she was the representative for Norway in 2020. That's the other thing we've got to add in there. But to me, she's just going to look like a very talented young lad singing a ballad. And I don't know if that will do much for me when it comes to voting. I just thought I'd throw that in there. But yeah, I think Arklow, yeah, that's the point of difference song, I think. And that could get a lot of traction, and he'd probably do quite well, I think, given we've got, how many? We've got like 3, 4 maybe female-led songs. Yeah, so, yeah, I think there's a lot, yeah. So I think he may get that other vote that, you know, they may all cancel each other out. There's just four songs, but cancel each other out. He may come up, I don't know. That would be my dark horse.
Hugo, who's your dark horse?
I was going to say Atle Pedersen as well. I agree with everything that Fleur said about that. I think it'll do well with the jury, and I think he comes across well on camera, so I don't think it'll do badly there. I think the running order definitely helps Elsie Bay, if anything. I think she's fighting for the same sort of votes as Ulrika, but for me personally, I do like this song quite a lot. I love this genre, and Elsie does a good job of the vocal without being absolutely amazing. I do like the song. The staging is tasteful to the song. I don't think I see it winning just because as I said, I think it's fighting for the same votes as Ulrika is, but second last in the running order might help it a little bit. And the other one, or just to touch back on Yone, I don't think the running order helps him opening the show, but I think that he's in with a good chance, especially with the public vote. I think the stage show in the semi-final was good. I think it'll be much more elevated on the bigger stage of a grand final, more sweeping shots, more energy in those choruses. But I think a mixture of those couple could do well.
Craig, who's your dark horse?
So I thought I was going to be super original by listing Atle Pedersen as my choice, and now it turns out I'm not, so I'm a bit stuck here. But 2 points come to mind first. First of all, I don't know if we've actually given much time here, but I think that Alessandra, like, I know Fleur mentioned her as an obvious favorite, and I think she is a favorite, but I don't think it can be understated that, like, she's doing extremely well on TikTok and social media in general. Like, she's just sort of going wild everywhere. I've heard that song just, like, in the ether, going around in my life at this point. And so, like, that can't be understated. And especially given there's an international jury here who is also probably aware of how that song is doing outside of Norway. I think that gives her a chance. And I'm going to mention these guys, not because I seriously think they're going to win, but because I very much enjoy them. But I really like Swing It, because I love a bit of toot-toot music and a bit of a saxophone and some dudes standing in front of a microphone. Is it, original? No. Is it, going to break the bounds of music, what music can do in 2023? No. But it's got a guy jumping on a double bass. And people doing little swing dancing, and it has that cute opening with the black and white TV. And you know what? Norway sent a pair of yellow wolves last year, so like stranger things have happened. I don't think anyone expected them to get through the semi-final. So the fact that they're even here, I'm counting that as a win.
Another point I want to add with Queen of Kings with Alessandra is that she's actually charting in Spotify, like, in countries, I think it was the Netherlands now too. Yeah, so she's charting in different countries now as well, which is something that can't be ignored. I haven't jumped on the Alessandra train myself, but if she goes to Eurovision, I think it would be a very good entry for Norway. The next national final we have is ESCZ in the Czech Republic, where we'll find out the results on the winning act and song on Tuesday. So it might be Wednesday morning Australian time. So Fleur, I'm going to throw to you. Who do you think's taking out this national final?
It does look like Vesna's going to. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I've seen. Yeah, I think that's the favourite. I'd be surprised if anybody else, takes the crown. Boom kiss. I do like Roden's song though. I'd love for him to go, but yeah, I think maybe it's wrong year for him.
Hugo, who do you think is the favourite to take it out?
I think Vesna as well is the absolute odds-on favourite, as reflected in the Aussievision team and the fandom. This has ethnic elements, but I think it remains somewhat modern. I love the vocal layering and the harmonies in the chorus. I think there's a real authenticity among the group, which I think shines through on camera, and it's just a good song. It moves at a nice pace. There's enough English for people to like that I can feel I can sing along to, and then the beat with the non-English bit I think was done quite intentionally, so people can still feel like they're tapping along to the rhythm without necessarily understanding or singing the words. So I think that's a cool little production trick that they've used there. I just think it just moves at a good pace. It builds, and the layering, the ethnic elements. I think this has all the earmarkings of a winner of ESCZ.
And Craig, are you on the Vesna train?
Yes. I mean, obviously. I won't speak too long about it because I think Hugo and Fleur covered it pretty well. But I wasn't super impressed by the live performance at the sort of that live stream thing they did. But at the same time, I don't think anyone came out of that covered in glory. And so I thought they did well. They can clearly sing it. They clearly have charisma as a group. And so I'm not worried about them converting this into a live performance in Liverpool, as long as they can perhaps get a little bit more creative with the staging. I'd like to see them play with some of the sort of deadpan elements that you see in the video where they sort of stare direct at camera, a little bit like Tulia from Poland did a couple of years ago. I think that could actually be very effective if done well and shot well. Yeah, song good, vocals impressive, production good. I think this is, I'm going to say it, I think this could perhaps win the whole thing if it got there and they do it right. But my one caveat there is, whereas with Ulrika, I was perhaps saying that I think fans underrate how much the general public might be into this. I do think there's a possibility that this is just so on trend with what fans like at the moment that maybe they're overstating its chances a little bit. But I do think there's that possibility.
Well, I'll admit, watching the music video alone, I have not felt like this with any song this Eurovision season yet. And I felt like My Sister's Crown probably has the best shot winning Eurovision. Very early to say, but just after watching that music video, I was like, whoa, this could, if they can make it work on stage at Eurovision, if they get there, yes. What we saw at ESCZ, well, it has potential, I think, and obviously they'll have to come up with another concept, something much more engaging. But
a concept,
a concept even. But the band themselves definitely have a quirk and very entertaining to watch. And the Czechs showed us last year with We Are Domi that they can stage a Eurovision performance. So hopefully that same team or whoever did that can, if Vesna do go to Eurovision, can create something amazing on the Liverpool stage. Because easily see this qualifying and maybe even win the contest. Hugo.
Yes, just one more thing I want to add about Vesna. I agree with everything that's been said. Of course, I love this song. Also, the Czech Republic have not done that well in the televote in the past, but I feel like this is the first entry which really feels Czech and like it goes into that sort of Slavic country mode. So I can't remember from off the top of my head who is voting in that semi, but if they have a few neighbours there, then that might give them a couple of votes. I think the song alone, if it goes to Eurovision, deserves to qualify to the grand final at this stage. But I think that having this sort of national identity in a song is, I think, the first Czech entry that's actually done that in Czech language, a bit of English, but has that real Slavic feel, which might lend itself to some other Eastern countries giving it a bit of love.
Yeah, I don't think the Czech Republic, the last time they had a Czech language song, I think was their first entry in 2007, if I'm not wrong. So it's been quite a while. Craig, what were you going to say there?
Two things. First of all, there's also the Ukrainian element, particularly given that Ukraine has consciously chosen to not send something that looks like Go A or something like that. These guys are, and they're singing in Ukrainian in parts. And so there's possibility for that to get televote. But first of all, can I also just say, we mentioned We Are Domi, but have the Czechs actually done a bad performance, like a bad staging since like 2018? They always show up with Nicholas Joseph looked great. Lake Malawi looked great. Both of them did well. I think the Czechs have been like quiet achiever. I don't think they've been getting enough credit for the last couple of years. And I'm hopeful that this is the year that it might pay off for them, because I think they thoroughly deserve it. They don't have a huge budget, they don't have a huge delegation, but they always turn out like a good show.
So we all think that Vesna is going to take this out, but is there a dark horse left with the other 4 acts, Fleur? You did mention Roden before, but do you think there is someone that could take out the vote?
I think Roden, that would be my dark horse. I think Mailer might be there with a chance as well. What I will say though, I'm really enjoying the way Czech Republic have done this year, because previously it was here are 7 clips, but your favourite. I like how they've had this little snippet of a little taster of how they would sound on stage, because my vote's actually changed after I saw the performance. That 2 or 3 songs kind of shifted in my rankings due to that. So I really enjoy the way they've managed it this year. But Roden, it's very current, I think. And look, a lot of us can relate to that song. I think a whole bunch of us on Aussievision are introverts, and saw the comments, and who isn't an introvert? So there's a lot of personal feeling I have with that song, which is probably why I liked it. It's a very current sound. He's a very new artist. So younger voters may go for that.
Hugo, is there a dark horse in there for you?
I think Pam Rabbit should be mentioned. It's not necessarily my cup of tea in terms of musical style, but I think in such a small national final, other than Vesna, this is the one that sort of stands out quite a bit as being something different. And with 70% international public voting, she's done the national final before. People may recognise a name, so that may translate into some votes if people look at 20-second clips of the song without watching all 3 minutes of all of them. Potentially, I think this has somewhat of a staging potential, in the sense that it's not just a, dare I say, a bland pop song. It does actually give us something to work with. So I think it's somewhat impactful to potentially stand out.
And Craig, who's your dark horse?
I'm gonna split the difference. I think that Pam Rabbit is more likely to actually win, but Roden is the one that I actually like. So if we talk about Roden first, I think it's kind of grown on me to the point where I think I might actually personally enjoy it more than I enjoy Vesna, but I don't think it would do as well as Vesna at Eurovision. But I think he is really unlucky that he's doing it this year when there's such an obvious favorite. Because I think in another year he could be a really good option. He seems like the sort of natural succession to Mikolas Joseph, Malawi. He sort of is in that brand, and I believe him when he sings the story that he's telling. I believe him when he does that. He comes across as charming on stage. He doesn't come across as awkward or sort of off-putting or anything. He's got a lot of sort of honesty there, and honestly, I really like it. I just feel really sorry for him because I don't think he's going to win, and it's not his fault. But to mention Pam Rabbit briefly as well, I don't love this one. It's to me, it's like watching a TikTok video, except they've stretched it out for 2.5 minutes, and it just sort of does the same thing. Disagree with Hugo. I think it is very bland. And the thing that it's got going for it is that at that national final, I think Pam did the best live performance. She did a bit of dancing. It was all in time. It was quite visually eye-catching. And so if you're just watching the videos there, I think she would probably leap out to you as one to watch, and I could see people voting for her.
I have Pam Rabbit as my dark horse too. I'm not actually personally drawn too much to the song, but I thought the music video is very interesting, and probably more interesting than what she did on stage personally. But I also seen a lot of the fandom talking about her the most after Vesna. She seems to be the name that keeps popping up as well. So, yeah, who knows? She may be there to cause an upset. Well, that's it for those 3 national finals. Thank you guys for your thoughts and opinions on the national finals, and we hope you enjoy the shows, and may the best entries win. See ya.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.